Can I get a motion to come out of recess?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Blaine, second by Dr. Meyer to come out of recess and return to open session. Good evening. So I want to remind everybody to turn your cell phones off or on silent. And Mr. Braswell, could you join us for the Pledge of Allegiance? We have no public hearing this evening. On to item 8, the consent agenda. Dr. Martin? Everything customary on the consent agenda?
Just a second, Madam Chair. On our consent agenda this evening are the minutes of the November 11th regular meeting, the November 27th budget work session, and the November 28th joint work session with the Board of Supervisors, and donations which are usual and customary. Staff asks that the consent agenda be approved as presented.
Make a motion to approve this consent agenda.
Motion by Mr. Braswell, a second by Ms. Shelley to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0 to approve the consent agenda. Informational items are included. Their instructional highlight. Mrs. Fenard.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Baker and Dr. Martin. This month's Fine Arts highlight comes from Cortland High School. Their brass quartet will perform 2 selections this evening from O Tannenbaum, O Christmas Tree, and The First Noel. Students who will be performing are Ben Huck and Joshua Herring on trumpet, Nate McMillian on euphonium, and Justice Beverly on tuba. The Cortland Band and this quartet are under the direction of Don Leonard.
We're going to pause for a moment and go to Dr. Meyer.
I'd like to ask for a moment of silence. I want to share with much sadness that Ann Roberts, who was clerk of the board for 32 years, passed away on November 17th. Our current clerk of the board is Dennis Martin, Dr. Martin. I occupied that position for 26 years, and when I came in 1985, Mrs. Roberts had just retired. So Mrs. Roberts retired in 1984 and served under 5 superintendents. In 2000, the school board named Nye River Middle School Library in her honor to recognize her many years of service to Spotsylvania County Public Schools and her commitment to our students. Please join me in a moment of silence in honor of Mrs. Roberts. She will be missed tremendously.
And Mr. Braswell.
It's also with a great deal of sadness that we share that one of our 5th grade students from Battlefield Elementary, Jose Juarez Barese, passed away on November 26. He suffered from health issues. During his brief life, he touched the lives of many and will be missed tremendously. Please join me in a moment of silence in Jose's honor. Thank you.
And continuing with recognitions and awards, 11.01, Mrs. Fennard.
Thank you. We are celebrating the outstanding student artwork from 5 of our schools tonight. This month, we are showing artwork from Cortland Elementary art teacher Meredith Stalker, Battlefield Middle School art teacher Jessica Martinez, Chancellor Middle School art teacher Shannon McKay, Chancellor High School art teacher Leanne Houston, and Massaponax High School art teacher Mary Lou Kramer.
Okay, Mrs. Flenard, could you go on with 11.02, Superintendent's Art Award?
Yes, ma'am. The December Superintendent's Art Award winner for Outstanding Visual Art goes to Simone Moses. Miss Moses is an 8th grader at Freedom Middle School. Her artwork will hang in Dr. Baker's office this month, and we would like Miss Moses and her art teacher, Andrew Beckers, to come forward and to be recognized for this outstanding accomplishment. If we have any of Simone's family and friends here, if they could stand to be recognized as well, please.
Thank you, Ms. Flenard. Can we move on to 11.03, Holiday Card Contest winners?
Thank you. We would like the following students to come forward to be recognized as being selected as this year's winners of the Division Holiday Card Contest. This year's theme was It's a Jolly Holiday with Spotsylvania County Public Schools, and we received 56 entries. Each of the 6 winners are receiving 25 cards and envelopes of their artwork. Our elementary winners are as follows: Charlotte Wright, Courthouse Road, 5th grade, Spotsylvania Courthouse. Hayden Rays, Battlefield Elementary School, 4th grade, Jolly Holiday Wishes. And Andrew Fuller, Lee Hill Elementary School, 2nd grade, Festival Animals. From our middle schools, our winners are Lauren Seeley, Chancellor Middle School, 7th grade, Let It Snow. Ashley Rohrbacher, Battlefield Middle School, 7th grade, Happy Holidays, Mitten Heart. And our high school winner, Candace Evick, Riverbend High School, 12th grade, Christmas Tree Silhouettes. Unfortunately, she was unable to be here with us this evening. And if our winners have family and friends in the audience, if they could stand to be recognized as well, please.
And Ms. Flanard, 11.04, 2017 National Gingerbread House Competition.
We would like the following Cortland students to please come forward at this time. Bryce Dillard, Grant Davis, Mackenzie Kurtz, Sarah Collins, Katrine Thompson, Jasmine Kelly, Alexis Ray, Madeline Narkinski, Ethan Crawford, Nick Slater. And we would also like Ms. Honinger and Ms. Reinhardt to come forward as well. For the 5th consecutive year, the Cortland High School German program placed in the teen category in the 25th National Gingerbread House Competition in Asheville, North Carolina. And as a result of student interest, Cortland High School had 2 entries this year. German 1 through 3 entered December 23rd and came in 2nd place. The students in the picture are Bryce Dillard left and Grant Davis. German 4 and AP German created a King's Retreat and won 3rd place. This competition provides students with an opportunity to use their imagination, creativity, as well as incorporate the use of math, technical drawing, physics, chemistry, history, culinary arts, and most importantly, collaborative problem-solving skills. Thank you to Ms. Honinger and Ms. Reinhardt for facilitating this learning opportunity for our students, and congratulations to you all, and keep up the great work. Go forward so they can see it. Go forward. If we have any family and friends that support our German students, if you could please stand to be recognized.
Ms. Flenard, 11.05, Share Our Strength, No Kid Hungry Virginia Breakfast Grant recipient.
Thank you, Ms. Shelley. We are pleased to share that Post Oak Middle School and Massaponax High School have been selected as recipients of the Share Our Strength, No Kid Hungry Virginia Breakfast Grants. Research demonstrates the importance of providing breakfast to children and youth. Children who eat a good breakfast tend to perform better in school, have better attendance, and exhibit fewer behavior problems. The school breakfast program offers kids a nutritious breakfast at school so they can start their day off right. Each school will receive $3,675 in grant funding to provide startup funds to increase student participation in the school breakfast program by implementing an alternative breakfast model. Post Oak Middle School will implement the program on January 3rd, 2018, and Massaponax High will follow beginning on January 22nd, 2018. Many thanks to Sodexo for their commitment to our students in applying for such grants on behalf of Spotsylvania County Public Schools. I believe we do. I see Mr. Baleko, and I see Dr. Pisani.
And then 11.06, life-saving recognition.
Thank you. At this time, we would like Chancellor High School Security Officer, Mr. Warren Fontaine, to come forward to be recognized. Mr. Fontaine took quick action to save a student's life who was choking on November 9th. The student was transported to the hospital and had a full recovery from the incident. On November 20th, Mr. Fontaine received a letter from Sheriff Harris for his heroic actions in a special presentation at Chancellor High School. Mr. Fontaine joined Spotsylvania County this year, and we truly appreciate your dedication to our students. Thank you, sir.
Move on to item 12.01, public comments. Dr. Martin.
The public comment segment of our board meetings is a time to receive recommendations, suggestions, concerns, and comments from the general public. Each speaker is allotted 5 minutes, and we ask that they clearly state the name, address, and/or voting district for the board. A speaker may request additional time from the board should one's 5-minute allotment expire. We ask that you keep your comments focused on the issues and that all speakers maintain a level of decorum and mutual respect for one another. Madam Chair, we do not have any speakers signed up at this time.
Is there anyone in the audience that is not signed up that wishes to address the board? Okay, seeing none. Move on to item 13.01, board committee reports. Are there any board committee reports? Ms. Shelley.
I just want to mention that Thursday this week, we have a food task force meeting. So I'm going to get more information about the grant that we just heard about, too. Thanks.
Mr. Blaine.
I have 2 reports, a little bit longer, but I think what these reports are going to emphasize is how much diversity and opportunity and choice that our parents have for their children in Spotsylvania County Public Schools. We have a broad range of activities, and these are 2 of them. One is our Governor's School, which is this month actually celebrating its 20th year. And I'd just like to read a few of the highlights for you here. Two CGS students represented the county at the National Council of Teachers of English Town Hall panel discussion in November. The live streamed town hall discussion focused on how teachers can utilize best instructional practices when introducing selected pieces of literature and books that may contain controversial subjects. One of the books that was discussed was Mark Twain's Huckleberry Finn, which is a recommended advanced placement book CGS requires 11th grade students to read. During the town hall, Tanner Kemme from Massaponax and Sidney Toon from Cortland shared their insight to 3,000 educators about the importance of reading controversial literature and critically analyzing texts in school. The students were articulate, mature, and represented our division very well. We had 6 CGS sites that gathered and donated toys, clothes, gift cards to give the needy family, elderly citizens in the community. The Angel Tree donations will go actually tomorrow to the Spotsylvania Social Networks program. On this coming Friday, Riverbend is hosting the CGS 20th anniversary holiday coffee. And I remember talking to Ray Laura, who was on the board at the time that this got started, and how proud he was of the accomplishments of our program. The applications for this year the applications submission opens on January 2nd to rising 9th through 12th grade students in the division. Interested students can receive the application from their schools, scope teachers, and guidance counselors. Additionally, we have the application that can be downloaded from the school division. And I hope that some of the parents listening who think that their youngsters might be interested in their governor's school take time to make an application. Second report I have is about our career and technical education program. And this is, I think, a gem in our system that is going to become more and more recognized as more and more jobs become available in our whole society, actually, because we produce students from this group who have something like, the last I saw was something like 20,000 jobs exist nationally that cannot be filled, starting salary about $80,000 a year, because students don't have the technical background that they need. And our CTE program provides the background so the young people can go into that career activity. On November 30th, CTC hosted area industry leaders in HVAC to kick off a youth apprenticeship program for our high school students. Our Spotsylvania Career and Technical Center is one of the 5 high schools in Virginia who are piloting this youth apprenticeship in the trades for the Department of Labor and Industry. Early childhood education students have been presenting the LEAP curriculum to elementary students at Robert E. Lee this year. This curriculum focuses on healthy food choices and healthy habits. Think about the range of things I'm speaking about briefly. The FCCLA float received second place in the Spotsylvania Christmas Parade. Additionally, the CCH Quarry Battalion Army ROTC, get it straight, also received second place in that category. We've started recruitment efforts right now to visit middle schools in Spotsylvania, and those of you who are in middle schools can expect somebody to come and have a chance to chat with some of your students. We have an open house on February 7th. And finally, Cortland Elementary School Head Start students will be making cookies with the SCTC Culinary Arts and Early Childhood Education students December 13th and 14th. And that's quite a few things I said I recognize, but I wanted to emphasize the terrific range of choice that our young people have in Spotsylvania County. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Any other board committee reports? We have an audit and finance committee meeting on Monday, so I'm sure going into budget season, that will be an interesting meeting. We'll move on to 13.02. Mr. Upperco and Mr. Hockaday, would you like to join us about the update on the Cortland High School renovation project?
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Baker, Dr. Martin. In just a few minutes here, Mr. Hockaday, our Director of Maintenance, will walk you through a brief summary of where we are, status report in reference to Cortland High School. And with your permission, Madam Chairman, at that point afterwards, we'll remain at the podium and go straight to action item 14.01. And at that time, we'll ask Mr. Phil Traer to join us as well. Thank you. Without further ado, Mr. Hockaday.
Good evening. As Mr. Upco said, we're going to give a short overview of where we are on the Cortland project, what work has been done to date, where we stand. I have a few photos for those of you that have not been able to go by and look at what work has been done and the changes. I don't know if this is, I don't know if y'all, are y'all seeing the photos? There we go. This is a view from top of the building that looks down up over top of the modular buildings to give you a better idea of the overall size of just how large the classroom areas are. This is some of the work that was originally done grading out front for the pad site for the trailers. This is where the original loop was in front of the building. This photo shows that we're making all of them ADA compatible. It's one of the ramps that leads to the modulars. One of the things that has been done so far is relocation of the library. The library now is housed in the auxiliary gym. The E-Lab and the library itself is completely moved out of the existing space to make room for the work to be done. A couple other updates to make sure I go over that. To give you a little bit of a size and scope of the project, there's 28 individual modular trailers that make up the classroom space and the office space. To date, 26 of the 28 are in place. Tomorrow, the last 2 should be in place. We'll follow up with inspections as scheduled for Wednesday. The existing shop class has been relocated to Career and Tech. The shop space has been modified to house 2 art rooms, 1 ESOL class, and a secure location for student records. The library, as I said, and E-Lab have been relocated to the Aux Gym. We are still on schedule for students to have use of the modular classrooms as well as to move the guidance and administration during Christmas and New Year's in that time frame. All modules have wireless access points, smart boards, and projectors in them. The admin space will house 11 offices that will include the clinic, guidance, admin, reception, and bookkeeper. All modules classrooms have and office have security cameras installed. The new voice over IP system that has been installed allows control of the alarms, bells, clocks, and intercom from the office for the entire building. All areas of the modular classrooms and the office area exceed ADA compliance. Security fencing will be installed around the perimeter of the classroom space modulars and will separate the construction area from the instruction area. Fencing will also be installed to limit and control access to the building. Signage will be installed to clearly identify all areas of access. At this time, the parent pickup and drop-off has been modified and has been working without problems or incidents to date. And in closing, we will continue to work with Cortland High to meet the needs of the students, staff, and community, and to continue with the project as we move forward. Any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer. I would like to say if that it seems like not a lot when you talk about it so fast, but none of this would have happened without Mr. Davis. He has been a critical part of this for me. He's been on site every day. He's taken the challenge, and I'm glad to have him on staff. So I want to thank him while I have the chance.
Mr. Braswell.
Thank you, Mr. Hockaday. And I agree with you fully that Mr. Davis has been not only on the spot, but also being integral in assisting staff with traffic or anything else they need during this transitional period. And I've had the great opportunity to see him several times in the morning as I go off for my morning constitutional run. And not only does he assist there, but he's always ready to give a briefing on the progress. And what I'm looking forward to is once we have the trailers set up completely, to have the opportunity to have a tour of it so we can see with our own eyes.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Meyer.
Question in terms of the student furniture, part of the presentation earlier.
Yes, sir.
Would you want to address that?
We are working with the architect, and we're going to do some test furniture. They're going to supply some different pieces for us to put in the modular. This will give us some time for our students to use it, get some feedback from students as well as instruction on which pieces work better, not only for the space but for instruction as well. So we have that scheduled. We're still on board to do that. And as soon as we're ready, we're working with the architect to move those pieces in. And we're going to move them from different pieces from classroom to classroom so we can try to get the best feels we can for what pieces to order moving forward.
Mr. Blaine, did you have something?
Just briefly, I'd just like to compliment you folks. I'm anxious, excited is a better term, to see this get started. And I'd like to thank you all, and the architects and everyone else for the job you've done so far. And we'll be looking forward to the official start of the construction.
I'll accept your thanks on their behalf.
Any more questions? We can move on into 14.01.
Okay, good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. We come before you tonight to actually recommend a non-award of the bids received last week for the Cortland High School renovation project. Bids were opened up last Tuesday. They exceeded budget parameters by roughly $4 million. With your permission, we would like for you to reject those bids and allow staff to go out for a rebid. We'll be working with BCWH to try to close the gap. We may not be able to eliminate the gap all the way, but we do feel like that we can close the gap. And with your permission, we will go out for rebid. The bids would be received approximately January 20th in that time frame. We would have them available for a reconsideration to the board at the February meeting.
We have a motion.
I make a motion to reject the bid that was highlighted by Mr. Traer and direct staff to rebid for the project, for Cortland renovation project.
I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. Braswell for the recommended action to reject the current bids, and a second by Mr. Twigg. Any discussion? Ms. Shelley.
Do we think we underestimated, or what is the reason we think that the bids are so much more than what we had originally estimated?
Well, I think it's a couple factors, and one factor you always face on bid day is when you make your original estimate and you set aside funding, you're usually normally at least a year to a year and a half out from the actual bid of the project. What we're facing right now is the bid market has gotten very tight. The economy is in a state of flux, I will say. There seems to be a lot of energy on it moving forward, so the bids kind of take on that, follow that. One thing across the country that we're seeing, and Mr. Blaine touched on this a while ago, is there is a huge shortage of skilled trades professionals, especially in the mechanical fields, heat and air fields, welding, all of those fields. There's a huge shortage, so a lot of your subcontractors are pricing work because they're afraid to take on too much. So there's a lot of factors there that I think worked against us. I think we, and it's always the fact that, chance that we did underestimate some numbers. So I think there's a lot of different things that cause it to be where it's at.
Dr. Meyer?
Can you speak to the fact that right now we have the modulars that are there, but those modulars are not going to be part of Cortland except for the 2 years under construction? So are those modulars part of the Cortland project and included in the cost, or would that be attributed because we will eventually then be moving those to another building, another site?
Yes, sir. They are, we purchased the modulars.
Correct.
So we own those. And of course, we will leave them there on site as long as we need them. The estimate that we originally put in at CIP covered the cost of the modulars. They were not in the cost of the base bid that we're looking at. This bid is construction cost only. So to answer your question, they came out of the overall Cortland project, but not out of the construction cost for the base bid.
Has there been a substantial amount put into contingency, because when you're dealing with renovation, there are unknowns, and is that figure too high, or is that one of the options?
That is one of the things we've looked at on the bid. As normally we carry about a 10% contingency. And on this project, because the area that you normally face those problems in is site work, because it's unknown of the ground. We feel that we actually can lower that amount on this project due to the fact that it's not a lot of site work. What work that will be done, we've already had Timmons do inspections. We feel very comfortable about all the drilling we did and what the results were. We've had hazardous materials inspected in the building. We know where they're all located. And being as we'll end up doing a complete renovation of the systems, we will be getting rid of any products that were used during that time. So I think the chance of discovering something that we don't know about is probably much less on this project than it would be on some others. So I feel as we move forward in the bid, that's one of the things we can do is lower the percentage on the contingency, which will lower the number of the complete bid.
Are there any other anticipated changes, prior to going back out to bid?
We would move forward in putting it back out to bid as was recommended originally with the one add alt unless the board wanted us to do something different. There are some areas that we would work with the architect to do our due diligence to make sure that if there's any areas that we could modify the scope but not change the overall concept, that we would look at those areas. Again, we want to make sure that the project continues forward with the same, covers the same areas and with the same effort that we did and talked about during the meetings we had prior to. So we would not want to change any scope that would get into the bones of the building, as we say. But if there's any way that we can look at maybe a different product or something different in some areas, we would do that before we put it back out to bid.
So when would you intend to, I heard you would call the bids in for toward the end of January. When would you put it back out?
We hope to have the bid documents received from BCWH by the end of next week. Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Okay, no more discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you all
Thank
very
you.
much.
Moving on to 14.02, the second reading approval of revisions to school board policies. It's deferred FY 2017 cyclical review. Do we have a motion?
I will remove the recommended action for 14.02.
Motion by Mr. Blaine to approve the second reading to revisions of school board policies with a second from Ms. Shelley. And discussion, Mr. Braswell.
I'd like to amend that to pull JCR, student transfer regulations for considering approval requests. I want to pull that so that we can have a separate discussion about student transfers, especially in light of discussions with the superintendent in regards to the possibilities of looking at attendance zones and having the flexibility in the policy this year so that we would be able to have a little leeway in our current policy to approve transfers for other mitigating circumstances beside the restrictive criteria that we currently have in place.
That's a motion to
amend and pull JCR.
Okay.
So Ms. Shelley is going to second the amendment proposed by Mr. Braswell to pull JCR transfer. Now we have to discuss the amendment, correct?
No, this first doesn't exist.
So, Madam Chair, just a clarification, so we're just asking to defer that one till another date?
Yeah, I would like to defer to another date.
Okay.
So we are now currently made, the motion is to approve a second reading of the revisions to school board policies without the JCR transfer, and that will be discussed at a later date. So any discussion for that motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Do we need to have a specific date to?
No, we'll just reschedule it.
Okay.
And I think I'll just consult with the board to determine exactly when you have sufficient time to review it, and we'll schedule it accordingly.
On to 14.03, the second reading approval of revisions to school board policies that were deferred VSBA from February 2017 policy review.
I'll move the recommended action.
Mr. Blaine approves the recommended action to approve the revisions to school board policies from the VSBA February 2017 review, with Ms. Palmer seconding. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0 to approve the revisions. 14.04, the first reading approval of revisions to school board policies from the VSBA May 2017 policy review.
So moved.
Mr. Blaine moves to approve the first reading of the revisions to school board policies from VSBA 2017 with a second from Dr. Meyer. Any discussion? Mr. Braswell.
I would like to amend to withdraw policy BDDC-R, agenda format. Would like to see if that's something that we should address tonight as we go into the new year. Does it make sense to change our format to include board member comments and superintendent comments as a part of our agenda in the future?
I had it as a topic in our January workshop when the whole board is together.
Okay, then we
If
could
that's
just,
a
I'd like
better
to
time.
withdraw it, and then we can address it at that particular time.
Okay, so we want to amend the motion to approve the first reading of the revisions to school board policies from VSBA 2017 policy review with the exception of BDDC-R. Dr. Meyer.
What is the motion again? Because if he withdrew his amendment to it.
No.
He changed it.
My amendment was that we would withdraw BDDC-R. And my question was, should we discuss it tonight? But the chair said that she already had on her agenda in January an opportunity to discuss it. So as far as the amendment's concerned, we just want to withdraw it for this evening. We can discuss it at that particular board meeting.
Madam Chairman, it seems to me we could approve this. This is the first reading. And when we handle the discussion in January, when it comes up again for discussion, we will make whatever decision is made at that point. So this is just a first step, that's all. There may be others that we encounter farther. So
If I may
think we could
insert,
vote
because
on-
what stays in effect is the regulation of the agenda format. It stays until the board approves a change. And, you know, we have mentioned several times about looking at several areas of that agenda format. And our opportunity for looking at that would be at our next opportunity when we have a workshop session with our newly constituted board, that all the players would have input into that. And then we could consider board member comments or anything else related to that format.
Dr. Meyer, or let me make sure I understand what you're saying. What you're saying is, because this is a first reading, if we approve the first reading, we're still going to have an opportunity to address it, so there's no need to withdraw it. Correct. Okay. Then I drop my amendment.
Okay, so the motion is to approve the first reading of the revisions with no edits. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. On to 14.05, the second reading approval of revisions to school board policies JFHA, prohibition against harassment and retaliation for students, JFHA-F, reporting Form for Students, GBA, Prohibition Against Harassment and Retaliation for Personnel, and GBA-F, Reporting Form for Personnel. Dr. Martin.
Due to updates regarding the designated compliance officer for the school division, policy JFHA and policy GBA are presented this evening for the board's review. The accompanying reporting forms for these two respective policies, JFHA form and JBAF form, have been revised and are likewise being presented for second reading approval. Recommendation that the school board approves for second reading approval as of these policies as presented.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Motion by Dr. Meyer, second by Ms. Shelley to approve the second reading of the revisions to those school board policies. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried 7-0. On to 14.06, the second reading approval of revisions to school board policy DK, payment of invoices. Ms. Gaines.
Good evening, Madam Chair, school board members, Dr. Baker and Dr. Martin. With the implementation of our new financial system and how we have revised our invoice entry process, we're now able to pay bills a lot faster. Therefore, it would be beneficial to add a third approval, Ms. Karen Marion, who is our AP lead. So at this time, we're recommending that revision.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Motion by Dr. Meyer, second by Mr. Braswell to approve the revisions for payment of invoices. Any discussion? Ms. Palmer.
Just to be clear, the policy doesn't name individuals, it names positions, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Mrs. Gaines. And on to first reading approval of revisions to school board policy DJ, small purchasing, and DJ-R1 purchasing.
Thank
Mrs.
you.
Gaines.
At our last Audit and Finance Committee, we talked about some changes that were needed to these policies so that we'll be more in compliance with the Virginia Code. So when you look at them, you're basically looking at semantical changes. The main one is looking at JDR1, which you will find on page 2. And it basically speaks to when we're making purchases. The number one rule is to make sure at the time the purchase is made, what is your intent? So based on that, that will determine how many quotes we're required to receive. At this time, staff is recommending approval as you see before you.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Motion by Dr. Meyer to approve the first reading revisions to school board policy. Second by Ms. Shelley. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you again,
Thank
Mrs.
you.
Gaines. All right. On to 15.01, any unfinished business? On to 15.02, any news business? Mr. Twigg.
Thank you. Just one item of new business. Budget season's in, and just two highlights that I'll be looking at supporting or promoting and supporting are that I had spoken to Dr. Baker about this already, but I'll be looking to reduce those activity fees to zero. I was informed that that cost will be about $125,000. But more, as importantly, I'm soliciting our discussion and hopeful approval toward instituting an addition of $300 per classroom. I had gotten an official number from Dr. Baker of 1,700 plus classrooms, $300. That would be roughly $500,000 that I would welcome seeing put into the cost of doing business so that it becomes a repetitive, without discussion item. I think that this should be an add-on to what is happening now, perhaps even a restructure if we could materialize that. Worst case, if we could do anything, perhaps incrementally adjust that. Everywhere I've been over the last 35 years that I've been involved with children's education, K to 12, I've seen teachers invest hundreds of dollars every year into their classrooms, helping students in need as well. And I would welcome alleviating that burden on our great teachers in our county. So I'll be looking forward to supporting that as we move forward in budget discussions. Thank you. That's all I have.
Any other new business, Dr. Meyer?
Madam Chair, I'm going to piggyback on to the discussion that Mr. Braswell brought up in that when we have our next workshop time, we should try to schedule that as soon as possible after the board reconstitutes itself. And would you please address, I think you were looking at a possible date. I think you mentioned it earlier. All right. I'll pass on to you. Thank you.
Any other new business before I go? Okay, the first thing we have to look at, and that was included in our email this week, was the Spotsylvania County Public Schools 2018 School Board Legislative Priorities. So it was just a list that was compiled from the two organizations we normally do, with the exception that we made some minor edits in some wording, and we added my favorite: that Spotsylvania County Public Schools supports a constitutional amendment that will enable local school boards to be fiscally independent with full taxing authority. So the same amendment we supported last year, we just added that for this year. So we just needed to officially agree that those were our legislative priorities before our reception tomorrow evening.
Do we make a motion? I would like to make a motion that those be our legislative priorities.
Motion by Ms. Shelley and a second by Dr. Meyer to approve the legislative priorities as distributed with the addition of the constitutional amendment. Any discussion?
I would like to just make a comment. I have had experience with your objective, Madam Chairman, for 14 years on a high school board of 12,000 students. And when the school board has taxing authority, we eliminate a major problem. Two things. First of all, the voter has much better control over the elected official, because if the school board spends too much money, the population knows who's responsible. And if they want to do more, they also can do that. And it's a system that works in most states of the union. And we're one of 9 states that operates as we do. So I'm 1,000% behind that and hope that we're able to get it started.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. I would like to announce that January 16th is the next meeting date for the School Board Advisory Committee here at the School Board office in the Executive Conference Room. It was one scheduled for this evening, but it was for this evening, and we did not have 2 locations. So they moved to January 16th. Then on to Dr. Meyer's comment. After the board is officially reconstituted, I would like to schedule the workshop to keep the date open for January 12th and from 1 to 4 p.m. And one of the topics would be the agenda format, that discussion, and anything else that we would like to bring up, maybe the transfer policy that you would like to discuss, Mr. Braswell. So, okay. And any other new business? Ms. Palmer?
Well, I might have to preempt you, I'm sorry. Call me out of order, that'd be exciting. Well, I do want to take a moment to thank everybody on the board and the staff especially, for the 5 months or so that I've had the absolute honor and pleasure of serving. This is an extraordinary organization, and I am proud to be a Spotsylvania County resident. I'm proud to have kids who have gone through the school system, and I'm just so impressed with everything I've seen. There are many things, and I can say this as a parent honestly, there are many things that can be improved upon, but I think we've got a great system and structure in place and some wonderful people sitting beside me who will help see that happen. But especially to the staff, you guys are fantastic, and I really thank you for all your kindness and support over the past few months. It has been my honor.
You've made the first step and had the first experience. There are lots of elections coming up, so good luck.
Well, you did preempt me. Sorry. But I think we all want to extend our thanks, but we can all go individually. I just want to thank you for graciously stepping in at the last minute. You had a very short learning curve and caught on quickly. Your job made a big difference in those months and definitely performed above expectations. And we appreciate your service, and I hope that you'll serve on committees and stay active. And thank you, thank you, thank you. I know Ms. Shelley's ready.
This was, I feel honored. You said you were honored. I feel that we're honored to have you have been on our board. You brought a different insight, and you were so well-spoken, and I don't even know what to say, because you were awesome, absolutely amazing as a board member, and it was very nice to get to know you as well, because I did not know you prior to this, so getting to know you, and you're a really nice person as well. So thank you, and yes, I'm glad that Ms. Grant mentioned committees and things, because you might be hearing from us. I shouldn't say might, you will be hearing from us, but we wish you well in all of your endeavors. Thank you.
Cassie, thanks for the opportunity to get to know you. And I truly do appreciate all the efforts, because if you hadn't stepped forward, Lee Hill would have been 6 months without a representative. And I know there was, some talk of that some people wanted that to happen, but I'm glad that you chose not to let that happen, to be able to represent Lee Hill. And you had a fast learning curve, but you truly learned very, very quickly. And you were able to represent the community out there, know that you're going to be transferring to other opportunities to volunteer and to be part of, but you always continue to be part of this school community. And we thank you for taking the courage to present yourself, to make yourself known. When you put yourself out there in the public, all shields are taken off. You wear a Teflon shield, but you still, you do put yourself out there. And that takes a lot of courage. Not everybody wants to do that. Not everybody will step up and say, yes, I'll take on that responsibility and learn something new. And I truly do appreciate, and having had the honor to be able to serve with you, to be side by side, colleague. And I want to say special thanks.
Mr. Braswell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to thank you too, Cassie, for your service. I had a chance to talk to Amanda Blaylock shortly after you came aboard, and one thing I told her is Cassie's smart, and I'm very appreciative of your grasp of what we do. But what's most impressive to me is your willingness to serve others. I believe that the greatest compensation in life is when you give to others without expectation of receiving anything back. And you did that so well. And you'll always be rewarded for what you gave. And the people that had the opportunity to benefit from your selfless service are going to be so much better off as a result of you being in place. So I thank you as a colleague, and I thank you as a citizen of this county that you were willing to give, because it is better to give than it is to receive.
Mr. Twig?
Cassie, it's all been said, but thank you very much for the service. The people did need represented, and your efforts in the position and as we've moved forward are very greatly appreciated, and may you be blessed in your future endeavors. Thank you.
Any other new business? Any other thank yous? Dr. Baker?
Thank you, Cassie. I will be speaking with you more after. Thanks.
Do we have a motion to adjourn? Motion by Ms. Palmer to adjourn. All those in favor? Aye. We're adjourned.